I'm Helen.
I'm Miss Sinclair.
And I'm Edison. Y'all better grab your extra large popcorn. We are in the thick of things with great films.
I am open and positive.
I don't like it.
Let's throw on these boxing gloves.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Woohoo!
Welcome to Talk Movie to Me, a weekly podcast where we do a deep dive on a new release that's just hit theaters or streaming. I'm Helen.
I'm Miss Sinclair.
And I'm Edison, and we are so friggin' excited to welcome you all to Season 8 of Talk Movie to Me.
Yes.
It is completely outrageous to me that we've been doing this for so long. And for our listeners who have been with us for the entire journey, thank you. And for those of you who may be joining just now, we are super happy to have you and want you to know that you have a lot to catch up on because, believe it or not, folks, this episode right here is actually our 200th episode of Talk Movie to Me.
Damn. That's a lot of talking movies.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
With only minimal fights, really.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the ones we had were pretty epic.
Pretty epic. And speaking of epic, we've got an epic film for that milestone and to kick off Season 8. So take it away, Sinclair.
Oh, yeah. Okay. It's time to delve into the cautionary tale of Elizabeth Sparkle. Once an Academy Award-winning actress, Elizabeth was on top of the world. She had Hollywood in the palm of her spotless, perfectly manicured hands. Women envied her. Men desired her. She had the body of a goddess and a face to die for. Elizabeth's perfect physique made its way into the homes of millions of Americans with her aerobic show. Her impossible abs, her toned calves, her perfect proportions made women want to pump it up until they could pump no more. Her star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame once shone brightly, while a cabal of middle-aged Hollywood executives reaped the benefits of Elizabeth's talent and beauty. So how does a woman who has reached the highest peak of success have such a devastating career-ending fall from grace? Well, she turns 50. That's it. That's actually the end of the movie. She just turns 50. Done. No other explanation needed. Feeling the rejection that comes with middle age, Elizabeth becomes desperate to stay relevant, to stay beautiful, to stay perfect, to hold the attention of her male admirers and keep her place in the Hollywood spotlight. Fired from her aerobic show, Elizabeth turns to a mysterious black market drug called the Substance. A serum that, when injected, creates a younger, more beautiful, more perfect version of you. Thus, Sue is created. Sue is incredible. She's perky. She's toned. She's vivacious. Sue glows. Sue is youthful. Sue smiles. But the Substance requires these two to switch every 7 days, no exception. Because they are one. They must maintain the balance, and a slight misuse of the Substance can lead to disastrous effects. But when Sue's fame grows, Elizabeth begins to feel herself fading more into irrelevant darkness, because no matter how hard we try to project the perfect image, no one can truly escape their greatest enemy. No, not time. Time is not our greatest enemy. Elizabeth learns firsthand that no one can truly escape from themselves. What ensues is a body horror story so grotesque, so audacious, so abominable, so stomach-turning, it could make my Lord and Savior David Cronenberg blush. Directed by Coralie Farjah, The Substance asks the question, have you ever dreamt of a better version of yourself? This is The Substance. A wild ride, to say the least.
Wow.
First impressions, Edison.
Okay, so I have seen this film twice now. The first time was at the Atlantic International Film Fest. And I mean, because it was at the film festival, it was completely sold out. It was packed. And I just want everybody to see this film in the theaters for the experience of it. But my first impression of this was all of that excitement of the energy of the space, right? And then the film opens with this incredible sequence of this overhead shot of the Hollywood Walk of Fame, like a star on the Walk of Fame, right? And we see it, the whole process, them like setting it up. And then it like kind of cuts through this montage of the star and the life of the star, from bright and shiny and Demi Moore like twirling above it, to then like tourists crowding around it, taking photos with cameras. And I really like that you could kind of see the evolution of the cameras too during that. Like it was like old cameras from the 80s, and then a little handheld camcorder, and then people running over it, and then there's a crack and somebody walks past and says, yeah, she was the one who was in. And then there's like more cracks, and then people ignoring it altogether. And then there's an inexplicable snowstorm in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And finally, I guess, what is it, the president and somebody drops their like burger on the star, and ketchup and fries and meat everywhere. And this guy sort of tries to half-ass like wipe it up, but gives up and walks away. And then the shot like zooms in on this old, faded, cracked star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame that's smeared with ketchup and food bits, and it makes you think of blood and flesh. And I was like, this is fucking awesome. I loved the way that this film opened. Yes.
Yeah.
Helen, how about you?
So I saw this Monday night at a 6:40 screening with my friend Jess, and I was not expecting the theater to be busy, and we almost couldn't get 2 seats next to each other.
Wow.
Yes.
Monday at 6:40. The theater was full. Like we had to sit in like the third row to be able to sit together.
This is really promising, because when I saw it the second time, it also was about half full. And so I think it's a very limited release still, but hopefully the film like makes money.
I think it's like has a lot of buzz. So yeah, that was promising to see that there were so many people in the theater. And I think even before the whole sequence with the Walk of Fame, we get the shot of the egg.
Yes.
And so we see an egg yolk and egg white, and the substance being injected into the yolk, and then the yolk basically duplicates itself. And I loved that imagery. It's creepy, it's unnatural. In general, the beginning of this movie felt very Black Mirror-esque to me. And it was very sort of clean and stark in terms of images, and I was just really on board with the vibe. I'm like, oh yeah, this is my type of movie. I was excited. Yeah. Sinclair, what about you?
Well, it's funny because a lot of people are saying that egg shot is the most disturbing shot of the film.
Well, those people are wrong.
Yeah.
No, but I think it does say something. It's like there's something that's really
Unsettling.
squishy wishy and ooey gooey about it. Yeah, so I saw this at TIFF, and I actually wasn't going to see this at TIFF because this sold out. Like I was trying to get tickets for this, and I was mad that I couldn't get tickets for this, even though, you know, this movie was coming out very soon after TIFF. I didn't want to wait. I wanted to see it. And because this had so much buzz and people loved it at TIFF so much, they added extra dates at the festival.
That's awesome.
Because people really wanted to see it and they would pay to see it. So this won the Midnight Madness Award at TIFF, and people just really, really loved it.
Oh my God, that would have been a
Yeah.
friggin' screening to see.
Yes. I think that seeing it at TIFF, there is that level of excitement in the air. And the screening that I went to was in an IMAX theater. And it was really big and really
boy.
close.
Yeah.
Wow.
So when this started and the eggs were on the screen and you just felt like you could reach out and touch the yolk. I was like, oh God, I'm really in for it. I was really, really close. Yeah.
That's amazing. It was like a very visceral film. So
Oh,
on
yeah.
the IMAX is just insane. But there was something really special about seeing this in theaters. Like anybody who's listening, I'm assuming and I hope that you have already watched it. If you haven't, be forewarned, there will be plenty of spoilers from here on out. But just see it in theaters, or tell people to make sure that they see it in theaters if they can, because it is an experience. Even the second time I saw it, like there was this group of like 6 young guys like in the row in front of me. I want to say they were like in their maybe like 20 to 24 or whatever, like kind of like bros. And they were howling through this whole film, like losing it. It was really funny.
Well, let's get into the storytelling.
Yes. There's a lot to unpack.
Lots going on here.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so Coralie as a director, doesn't have a ton of stuff on her filmography. I recently watched her 2017 feature film directorial debut, Revenge, and that is a very like external experience of violence against women, basically. It's this woman who gets assaulted by these men, and then they leave her for dead, but she's not actually dead, and then she comes back and acts revenge on them. Very gory. I went back and I was rewatching some of it today, and there's a few, like, you can really see her director trademarks. There's certain things in that movie that you see again in The Substance that I thought was really cool. But she really likes to examine the way that, you know, women exist in society and how women are treated, how women treat themselves and other women. She also has a short film from 2014 called Reality Plus that is very similar to The Substance. So very quickly, it's about people who can get this procedure done where they can change themselves to look like anyone that they want, or like an ideal version of themselves for 12 hours a day. And then they have to spend 12 hours as their normal selves.
Oh, wow.
And so when you have this procedure done, you like press your palm, you can become this beautiful, perfect human, and other people will see you that way as well.
Could I look like Naomi Campbell?
Sure.
Wow.
Yeah, and then everyone would think you're Naomi Campbell. I mean, I don't know if she would be in the selections you could choose from, but so it has similar themes to what we see in The Substance about, you know, image and wanting to change our image and have this idealized version of ourselves. But, you know, there's always going to be limits. And if you break the rules, there are consequences, which we see in The Substance. So she's been exploring these ideas for, you know, the majority of her career thus far, and The Substance is the most extreme of these 3.
Yes.
But yeah, so The Substance really does, you know, examine crazy beauty standards for women, and I think the way that women are so hard on themselves.
Yes.
Like when I got out of this movie, I texted you guys and I was like, just, you know, an average day in the life of a woman. A life of being a woman, which I was, you know, joking, but partly not joking. I was like, the visceral experience of watching this movie, I was like, that is what it is to be a woman. You hate yourself sometimes, you know, you are emotionally and sometimes physically violent towards yourself. It's not unusual. And there was something really cathartic about seeing that displayed in this movie.
Yeah, that was something that stood out to me about this film too, is it just felt very much like a film for like today. Yes, of course, historically people have always been obsessed with beauty standards, and very specifically the ones that have been placed on women by men. But right now, this is a time when our societal obsession with attaining some type of like quote unquote perfect beauty, I feel like has never been more all-consuming. We are obsessed with ourselves, obsessed with how we're seen. There's filters on photos, hundreds of pictures till we get the right ones. People are starving themselves, injecting themselves, taking Ozempic, fillers, Botox, facelifts, buccal fat removals, whatever else, right?
Yeah.
And all of this with their fake tits and fake lips and waist trainers and fake abs and fake pecs and hair and cheeks, and we put the Kardashians on Mount Olympus and make them billionaires and obsess over every little blemish and mark and discoloration. It's wild. And I don't know, I just feel like this film is like, stop.
Yeah. And like, when will these procedures end? Because obviously the Substance is a very exaggerated version of something that you could do to, you know, alter your image and alter your body. But look at people taking Ozempic, and like there's side effects to that. There's people doing blood facials. Like, Hollywood is horror. It really is. Like, body image in Hollywood is body horror. And this doesn't feel that far off.
No.
It truly doesn't. I think that there is something really cathartic about seeing things done in extreme. There's obviously, this has a lot of new French extremity in it.
Oh, obviously.
This is very extreme. I loved the combination of that John Carpenter style and Cronenberg style of body horror combined with the French extremity. Basically, French extremity is a focus on really graphic scenes of violence, rape, obviously revenge. There's rape. These rape stories continue to be told. There's something about rape revenge movies that people just gravitate towards, and they're still making these movies. There's a lot of graphic sexual imagery, and it's interesting because aesthetically it really is a mixing of qualities that are considered to be lowbrow, but they are placed in a high art setting. So, we always have these conversations like, what is art? What is porn? What is art? What is exploitation? And I think that New French Extremity started with these male directors like Gaspar Noé, but it has really become dominated by women. You have Claire Denis, Julia Ducournau, now, Coralie, and they've made this genre feel really, really feminist. And I think it's because women really take to this genre as audience members. I think that women understand body horror so well. It's physical changes in the body. It's aging and being shunned for it, basically. There's babies coming out of our vaginas. There's women who can't have babies and the horror of that. Like, women's bodies are just, it's all around horror all the time. We bleed all over everything once a month. Like, it's horror all the time.
Like, menstruation is horrific.
Menstruation.
Like,
what
really?
is that? Like, it's blood everywhere. I just think that women get this genre. And I like, women like gore.
Yeah.
And I just think that it is really cathartic.
Well, in COVID, I texted you multiple times, Sinclair, saying, what's the most fucked up movie I can watch?
It was all women that texted me.
I know. And I remember you saying
these
that.
These female friends were texting me, I want the bloodiest, goriest movie that you know. What is it? What's the most fucked up movie that you know? I just think women just get it.
Yeah. And part of that must be the inherent understanding of the like horror of the threat of man.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Well, that too, yeah.
That's like built into it, and not even just the threat, but the like impact. I think we'll talk about Demi's performance, obviously, later, but in terms of her casting, the decision to cast her, I think that is really key to the success of this film. It's extremely meta. The opening scene of her doing those aerobics right off the bat, I literally leaned over to my friend who I went there with, and I was like, she's in her fucking 60s.
Yeah.
And that, even in that, like opening the film by presenting you with Demi Moore, somebody who has for her entire career been celebrated for her beauty and been also really scrutinized for the decisions she's made about cosmetic surgeries or whatever. And your first impression is, holy shit, she looks incredible for her age, and we're celebrating her for that. And then the film is like, why?
Not good enough.
Yeah.
Old.
It's so smart.
Making
and like,
references like, what was her movie, King Kong? Like,
right.
She was, it's...
She had a conversation with Michelle Yeoh for Interview Magazine and kind of talking about this. And she said, I found this to be such a unique way of exploring this issue of aging, of societal conditioning, of what I see as the pressure of the male idealized woman that we as women have bought into. And at the core of it, what it's really about is what we do to ourselves, showing the violence that what we do with our thoughts, how we attack ourselves and distort things. I thought that was really interesting and kind of ties into what you were just talking about, the like horror there.
Yeah.
Well, and also, you know, what it would be like to be a celebrity who is jealous of themselves, like their younger selves.
Yeah.
You're in competition with yourself and who you were in your career and who you can't be now.
Yeah.
You know, and like you're constantly looking of images of yourself, and do these celebrities look at them with jealousy, with hostility? You know, the way that Elizabeth is looking at Sue, and the more successful Sue is, the more irrelevant Elizabeth feels. It's like maybe Demi Moore watches A Few Good Men and is like, oh man, or watches Ghost, and she's like, oh, like, look at me then, and has some sort of like envious disdain for that person, like it's
Right.
a separate
She
person from
might.
herself.
And
you
that's
know?
part of, again, why it was so brilliant casting her. And also remember, like, Demi Moore is of a different generation. Like, I think it has gotten a little better in Hollywood in that way. But, like, remember when Demi Moore did Charlie's Angels? 40 years old when she did that film. And and she was, like, plastered over every single magazine everywhere.
Yeah.
She looks so amazing for
For her age,
All of the surgeries that she's done. And it's like, she's 40.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, what?
I think what this movie really, if this reminded me of, it's one of my favorite Oscar Wilde quotes. Basically, he says, the tragedy of old age is not that one is old, but that one is young. And you can like interpret that in so many ways. But I think that in this film, it is tragic, because in your old age, you can still feel young. And you look at Elizabeth, and she actually could be at the prime of her life.
Absolutely.
She has a whole new door opening up that's maybe away from Hollywood, that's maybe with that man that she meets and almost goes on a date with and stuff. And that is a tragedy. You're being viewed as old and told you're old, but she's young. Like, you realistically are young, and she's not able to live the life that she could live because she's so stuck in who she was. And I think that is part of the great tragedy of this film.
Yeah. Something else that I really enjoyed, it really feels like the male gaze is being mocked through this entire film.
Totally.
I know. It is.
And that's a tough thing to achieve, I think, because we get like hypersexualized shots of women's bodies throughout this whole movie, but you can tell that it is a commentary on the fact that that's what men want to see.
Well, I think it's because it cuts to the shots of the like male executives and stuff being, and they're such caricatures that you're right. You see it for what it is.
It's the way that the camera shoots them. It's not fisheye necessarily, but they're close-ups that it's like they're peering at you in the audience while you're watching. You can almost like feel their breath on your face. I mean, granted, yes, I was in IMAX. So those men felt right there in your face. And it's the leering, it's the like the greed and the consumption when Dennis Quaid is eating those shrimps. He's eating that pile of shrimp. It's just the consumption of anything, and he's just discarding the shells. He's just eating these shrimp and discarding these shells, and it's
There's this very similar shot in Revenge where the one character walks in on one of the other male characters assaulting this woman, and the guy basically says like either join in or leave, we're busy,
and he walks away.
and the guy takes like it looks like an O. Henry and bites into it, and it goes like zooms in super close, and it's very, very audible, just like that, and like the marshmallow square, like it's just disgusting. And like she has this point of view that I think there's a lot of comedy in it, like for something that's so dark. I like the way that she portrays it, because you feel like you're in on the joke.
Yeah, and I think it's clear that this is a female director. Like if you're watching this, think about those like aerobic scenes and all of that. It's so over the top male gazy that it can only be satire, basically.
Yeah, so like I was saying, like women have really kind of taken over this genre, but you know, we do have to give credit to a very special man, a very special Canadian, David Cronenberg.
Yeah.
To the point where this movie is being called Cronenbergian.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, the very first thing I texted you after Sinclair, I was like, okay, so this is Death Becomes Her meets The Fly.
Yes. He's very much an inspiration here. The Fly is obviously one of the most obvious inspirations in terms of the scope of where this body horror goes. The Thing, John Carpenter's The Thing, is another one too, where this is even like topping the body horror in those films. Like she's just come in strong, but also really paying homage to these directors that are really known for this. There is a shot of like Sue's mouth. There's a lot of close-ups on her mouth, which is very like reminiscent of like Videodrome, where in Videodrome there's a lot of close-ups of like Debbie Harry's mouth. When Monstro comes in, when she is the full blob that she turns into, that's very David Lynch, very like Elephant Man, when, you know, society is turning on this monstrosity. Very Frankenstein's monster as well. This has so many influences that I love. It's like this has like every single ingredient that I could possibly love in a movie. The Picture of Dorian Gray, one of my favorite books ever. So much in that, where essentially Elizabeth is the portrait. Well, Sue is Dorian Gray, and they are one. Everything that one is doing is affecting the other, and I loved seeing those influences in this.
I was getting Aronofsky influences as well, like Requiem for a Dream.
Yeah, Black Swan.
That Ellen Burstyn and Black Swan, The Nails, like.
Speaking of Requiem for a Dream, for me, The Thing, it's funny because the first time I saw this film, I think was just about the experience of watching the film. Like it was just so much excitement and shock and awe, and I was like laughing, like this film is funny. The second time I saw it, I honestly just watched it through a totally different lens. I saw this so clearly as a story about addiction. And I think the voice of the substance guy on the phone being like, there is no she, there's only you, landed differently when I thought of it through that lens too. It's like she's literally at war with herself, and that to me is addiction. And yeah, thinking about the way it was shot, those disorienting close-ups, the like literal needle going into the abscessed injection site, the like grogginess of certain scenes and the technicolor of others, like being Sue is being high, it's being on a bender, everything is electric and hot and fast and heightened, and then she wakes up as this monster, and she's like further deteriorating as she gives more and more of her life over to Sue. And I think like anyone with a personal experience dealing with an alcoholic or a drug addict, and your friends or family or whatever often uses language like they aren't themselves, or another person takes over or whatever when referring to the intoxicated version of that person. And it just stood out to me so much in the second viewing of this. I was like, this is also really about addiction.
Yeah.
Well, really, this film becomes very violent. And I think the interesting thing is like the climax in this film, when everything kind of reaches a violent peak, is when Elizabeth and Sue are fighting each other.
Yes.
And Sue is just like repeatedly banging the head of Elizabeth. And it is very violent. And I think the interesting thing in this is when you see films like rape revenge films or any sort of revenge films that are extreme, it is a main character doing these things to a bunch of men or the people that have wronged her. And you don't see Elizabeth going after Dennis Quaid, really, in the same way. You see a fight between the two of them. And in that moment, I think there's a lot of self-hatred, and there's a lot of guilt. And I wondered how you two kind of interpreted that, because I did take it as almost you have also helped create the beauty standards that you now can achieve. And do you have guilt because of that in any way? It's like, yeah, you know, you've been part of a system and everything and probably maybe didn't want to do that necessarily, but like you have also been the standard that now you can't be
Right.
anymore. And there's just like a lot of self-hatred in that moment. So I thought it was for that to be the most like violent part of the film, and for it to be her versus her was interesting.
Like I kind of said towards the beginning about, oh, this is just what it's like to be a woman. Maybe not all women feel this way, but I think that there is this internal violence against yourself and hatred towards yourself that you don't even realize you're doing until you see something like that and you like understand it. You know, like I get it. I get that, just wanting to destroy that part of you that isn't what you want it to be, or that you think is taking away from the best part of you, and then coming to and realizing, but no, that's still me, and I still need to love that part and that person. You know, there is that separation and then the coming back together, and it's emotional. Like it's and seeing it displayed this way, I think is, it's cathartic. There's something like kind of healing in seeing that over the top violence.
And it's
like,
also, it is the best part of this film is like, yeah, it's over the top and it's violent, but this movie's fucking hilarious.
It's so funny.
Oh my
It's
God.
so funny because a lot of this stuff and what she's trying to do is completely ludicrous and impossible. When she is trying to put that earring on her hunchback ear,
I know,
and then she's trying. She has that one scraggly piece of hair,
I know,
and she's trying to curl it.
Yeah,
that's hilarious. I was
like
howling.
people were screeching with laughter in the audience.
So
it is
funny
so
because
funny.
the pressure that people put on themselves is, when you think of it, hilarious because it's impossible.
Yes.
It's impossible.
Yeah.
It allows you to laugh at all of it too. It allows you to be disgusted and horrified, and also it's funny.
That is the key to the success of this film, I think, truly, is the humor.
Yeah.
Because it just brings you in a different way. Because humor does that, right? It brings you in. You're in on the joke. You're in on the emotion of the thing. It's just a different type of experience than just watching the horror of it all. All right, so let's jump into performances. And we got to start with our lead, Demi.
I mean, she's doing full frontal nudity at 61.
Yeah.
I got to commend her for that. And I mean, she looks incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's really wonderful in this movie.
I am blown away. I don't even know what can be said about this. I feel like, I mean, Demi Moore has been a movie star for like 40 years. And yet I feel like this will be like this career highlight defining performance for her.
Yeah.
She hasn't had like a major film role in quite a while. And she gives everything to this performance. I love it. I love how committed she is to it. I love the changes in her voice depending on how sort of ravaged she becomes. The physicality is so impressive. The way she's like hunched over and running.
I know.
Like I never think of Demi as giving this type of performance. But like, and just the utter lack of vanity to be so exposed. Especially after having been so scrutinized for her appearance forever and celebrated for it, just like, but under the hottest, brightest light for the way that she looks for the entirety of her career. I just cannot say enough. I don't see this getting like Oscar nominations because the movie is too insane. But like, I would 1,000%.
I hope so.
Oh my God. Me too. I just really am so excited for her for this. Like, it's amazing.
Yeah.
I really love this era right now of these actresses like Demi Moore. You see Pamela Anderson promoting her new film, the Gia Coppola film, like The Last Showgirl, and finding these characters that really mimic their career and also like how they feel internally now. I really love that Demi Moore did this because it was challenging for her, for sure, but it also just must be so fun. She is funny in this, and she just truly gets the humor of this. Like when she comes out in that old hag outfit, I screamed.
I know.
Because where did she get that outfit? First of all, she comes out with those old lady stockings and shoes, and like I was like screaming. I was like, where'd you even get that? And like just the physicality in her body, and she's looking in the mirror at one point and she just smears her lipstick all over, and she just goes completely off the wall, unhinged. And I just think that this doesn't come around a lot, and I love that she just took this opportunity and did it. She's so good in this.
Yeah, she hasn't had a lead starring role where she's carrying the whole film with a film that is this sort of buzzy and buzzworthy literally since the 90s.
And audacious.
And audacious and bold and brave and all of it. Like, it's been a long time coming. It's so exciting. And you can see her on the press tour. She's so proud of the work, and she should be. And yeah, it's fucking incredible. It's like, she's so freaking, she is funny. It's fucking funny when she comes flying out of the house and the neighbor guy is like, the douchey neighbor guy is like, oh, hey, she goes, fuck off. And he's like, ah, like, it's funny.
Well, and her face crawling to her star at the end.
Oh my God. No, I can't.
And like, her face popping out of the monstro.
Yeah.
Just like
screeching out. Oh yeah.
It's so good.
It just keeps topping itself, this film.
Yes.
Like once you think you've seen the craziest thing in this movie, something else happens. And then something else happens and you're like, where is the cap?
Yeah.
When is this gonna hit the ceiling? Like, you know?
Yes.
Yeah. What did we think of Margaret Qualley?
You know, I haven't had a ton of affinity towards her. Part of me has been like, oh, she's a Nepo baby. But she proves herself in this movie. She gets it. She gets the character. She gets the like plucky young Barbie doll that she is playing here. And I was watching some interviews of her, and even her voice is so much different. Like she actually has like a kind of deeper voice than Sue in this movie. Sue is really like breathy and like just has that innocent voice. And I think that she really embodies it. And I feel like her and Demi are similar. Like you feel that they could be one person in their body language and
if Demi
mannerisms.
hadn't done this, I think if Andy McDowell had done it. Because it must be interesting as Andy McDowell, like seeing your daughter have the career, you know, that you once had. And it's interesting to see those parallels. I thought she was really good because she is so exposed, and she's not objectified, but she's being seen as being objectified. So in turn, to have to show that, you have to kind of objectify yourself to a certain degree to make the statement of objectification. So she does a lot. She had prosthetic boobs. I guess, which I read, which I found really interesting, that like they did like, you know, modify her to a certain degree to be this, you know, image.
That's wild. Then it's like,
I wonder if it feels not like you. You know, maybe there is a shield there between your body and something else.
Well, they're not her boobs.
That was my first thought, where it was like, okay, it's like she's still wearing something, so it's not quite as exposed, and maybe that's sort of comforting. But then it's also the like, but you weren't perfect enough, so we needed these prosthetic boobs to look the part, which is like kind of crazy.
It might have been like, oh, they wanted like bigger boobs because that's
Exactly.
like what's selling or whatever. Yeah.
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 That's
Yeah.
so also so I did not realize that her casting was also meta.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
no, I thought she was really great too. I mean, I like her a lot. I think she's so available in her face. Like, you really just can see everything that's going on, and you could see the character like putting on the Sue.
Yeah.
And I really liked that. And then you could see her being like manipulative and kind of dark and
She
evil.
does
and,
unhinged well, too.
yeah, she does unhinged. Well,
Yeah.
speaking of unhinged, though, okay, how about Dennis Quaid?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like,
Another one that I commend for doing this
For
performance.
being so vile.
Yeah.
so, but also how much fun did he?
Yeah.
Like, come on, he must
Yeah.
have had an absolute ball playing this
Yeah.
ludicrous,
You know, well, him
over
being
the
in
top.
Hollywood for so long, too, he's seen these executives.
Yeah.
Yes,
You know?
Well, and the character's name was Harvey.
Yeah.
Right.
That wasn't an accident.
I love
No,
how
of course not.
unapologetically on the nose this movie is.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Totally. Okay, why don't we talk about technical? I want to start by jumping in and talking about the cinematography for this. Benjamin Cracoon, I probably have mispronounced that, but this is the cinematographer for the film.
Not
I
worse
thought
than
this,
I would, Edison.
Truth.
I just thought it was absolutely fucking magnificent. The way this was shot, the coloring, the angles, the framing of the shots, the intense close-ups, the way it made you feel woozy, and with like the ragged movements, but then would bring you way in right on the eyes or lips or
Yeah.
butts.
Yeah.
Or
There was
or
so many butt shots in this. I was
Yeah.
howling.
So many
Every
butt
butt shot I
shots.
howled.
Yeah. A lot of tits too.
Yes. But I feel like more
Yes.
butt. But I mean,
More butt.
next
Yeah,
time
I
I
think
watch
you're
it,
right.
I'll count.
Yeah.
but just like so many interesting, and even some of it was shot from Elizabeth's point of view. Like, you're seeing what's happening through her eyes. It was so impeccable. And I was reading an interview with him for British Cinematographer magazine, I think, and he said in it that the script for The Substance was 150 pages long, and only 20 pages of it was dialogue. So
Wow.
when he read it, he thought it was amazing for a DP, like for a cinematographer to work on that, or for anybody visual. And I thought that was really, really cool.
Yeah, totally.
It's such
Yeah.
an important part of the storytelling. in
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
Well, it feels invasive, like that scene where when we first see Dennis Quaid walking up to the urinal and he's so close. It's like you want to back away. You're like,
Yes.
you're too close to me. Go get away from me.
Yeah.
It's very effective.
Yeah, I have to commend this film for its use of practical effects.
Oh,
and-
yeah.
and prosthetics. Like, it's just the way to do body horror. I think it can only truly be done this way. And obviously, you do have to mix practical effects with some digital effects. But really, it's the practical effects that look so awesome. They
Yeah.
just look so good in
Yeah.
horror. They use exploding heads, they use silicone bodies, there's so much latex, there's puppetry in this. Obviously, you know, there's the the huge monstro, Monstro Elizasu, where that's Margaret Qualley, but you have Demi Moore's face.
Yeah.
That the Demi Moore face that was digitally
Okay.
Yes.
put on.
What? Margaret Qualley wasn't wearing a Demi Moore backpack?
It's so good. But yeah, there's like limbs and teeth and
Insane.
boobs and everything's all over the place. But I guess Demi Moore spent like 7 hours, you know, at a time in the makeup chair getting
Well,
her prosthetics.
Wow.
And that first scene, that whole sequence when she first births Sue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, that begins with this cool over the head shot with her on the bathroom floor, and she's like in pain and everything. There's a shot that moves into her eye, and that when the eye like splits
yeah,
into two
yeah.
things, that's the only actual visual effect in that entire sequence.
Yeah.
No way.
The shots where the back splits open,
Yeah.
that was
It's a
all
silicone body.
practical.
That's so
The
cool.
special effects team was literally pushing out as if a body was when the like body breaks open and there's an arm coming out that was actually somebody's arm.
That's so cool.
So cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's the way to do it. I think this found like the perfect balance of using practical effects with some digital effects. It just like looks so amazing and flawless, and everything just complements each other.
Yeah.
I love how she plays with color too. Like you have that like bright yellow color of the egg yolk, and then her bright yellow coat that she's wearing the whole time.
Yeah.
And even the symbol of the substance is like, it's like two egg yolks beside each other, or like halves of egg yolks. And when I was going back and watching Revenge today too, there's a lot of fun color in that movie as well. Really bright colors. Music too. The music in this has such an energy. Like it's like club music.
It has like Challenger's energy.
Yes.
I found where it like really keeps that tempo for the whole movie. This movie is like 2 hours and 20 minutes.
Yeah,
and
it didn't
keeps
feel
that
long to me.
energy for the whole time. It just doesn't stop.
Yeah.
It doesn't stop. The sound, I mean, like, we keep going back to the shrimp scene because that was so loud, the squelching of everything.
Yeah.
But also, like, the squishing of the injections going in, like, the spinal tap bit.
Yeah.
It was like when pulling out the teeth. Like, the sound is so clear and visceral. It's such a part of it. It's so grotesque.
Yeah.
Like, it really gets you. You can just see everybody in the audience and hear people in the audience squirming and being like, no. Like, it was so cool.
Yeah.
Okay, well, what is the last word on The Substance? Helen.
I loved this movie. This might be the favorite movie I've seen so far this year. 5 stars from me. I'm giving this 5 stars. I absolutely loved it. I want to see it again before it's out of theaters. I also could see this becoming like a cult classic type of, Rocky Horror Cats at the Royal sort of thing. I would love to see
100%.
a screening in that type of environment as well.
Yeah.
Sinclair?
Yeah, I loved this. I would probably put this as my favorite movie-going experience of the year. Definitely an all-timer for me, too. I was howling, cackling, screaming. It was just so wild. I had just such a good time watching this. It has so many ingredients of things that I love. Just great. I just urge everyone to just go see this in the theater. I mean, yeah, this might not be everybody's thing, but if you're feeling bold and you're feeling a bit wild, then just do it. Just do it.
Yeah.
Edison, last word.
I also absolutely loved this movie. I can't remember the last time I had such a, I don't know, exciting or like surprising experience at the theater. I left this, you could not slap the smile off my face.
I know, me too.
It was just like, I was like, what did I just watch? Like literally, what the hell was that?
Yeah.
It was so crazy.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't stop laughing. And on second viewing, I left with the exact same experience. So, yeah, this film was fucking amazing. I am so happy for Demi Moore. I absolutely love this. It's just like wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Yeah.
Well, this has been our 200th episode of Talk Movie to Me. If you'd like to congratulate us, you can send us an email at talkmovietome@gmail.com.
Or an e-transfer.
Or an e-transfer, PayPal. We also accept large money
Traveler's
wiring is fine. Yeah, follow us on Instagram at talkmovietome. Rate and review us wherever you get your podcasts. Check us out on YouTube at Talk Movie to Me Podcast. I'm Helen.
I'm Miss Sinclair.
And I'm Edison. Bye.
Bye.